What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pivot to Greatness. I'm your boy, Coach Beasley, and I have a special guest with me today. It is a Pensacola native, Woodham High School graduate. Did you graduate from Woodham High School?
Yes, I did.
Woodham High School graduate, Division I basketball player, played overseas basketball for 9 years. He's a CEO and owner of 360 Basketball. He's a brother, a big brother to me. He's a father. He's a consultant. He's a mentor. Y'all, welcome to the show, Steve Horne. Steve Horne, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I appreciate it, man. That's an intro right there.
I try. You know, I always try. So just to get right into it. So we're both basketball players, former basketball players at this point.
Absolutely.
So just the norm. What started you? Like, what was your passion for basketball? What started your passion for basketball?
Well, my passion actually came from playing in the neighborhood, playing with guys that was older.
Mm-hmm.
I had a neighbor of mine that was pretty good in basketball, and just playing out in the neighborhood, in the parks, and having an opportunity, my first game to watch Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls play. My father used to tell me about it.
Okay.
And I actually had the opportunity to see, I was really young, but see the finals, Michael Jordan's first finals. And from there, that's when I just gained a great love for the game of basketball.
Wow. Okay, so to that point of playing with the older guys, I was that young kid when you guys came back home.
Right.
at PJC, we would play the games at PJC, the pickups at PJC, and this was a welcome to basketball moment for me.
Right.
Never the story told, and I'm glad I saved it to tell you now. It was Quintel Maxwell, which we called Tease at the time, William Montgomery, me, you, I think it was Ontario Lett, and Alice Gordon.
Wow.
We were all in the gym together, and I switched off on you. The meanest, like, tween crossover, and it was just so simple. And I'm a young kid. I think I'm a 9th grade at this time.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, wow, this dude is fast. They're strong.
Right.
So that made me now step my game up to be like,
man.
yeah, this is different. Like, basketball is not the same.
Right.
Like playing with my friends or the guys at the Fricker Center and all that other stuff. But yeah, man, I'm glad you brought that up. But that was my moment of playing with older, talented guys to expose me to another level of basketball. So that was something that really, really touched me to just tell you, like, man,
that was. I didn't know. Yeah.
But it was simple. It was a simple move. It was just well thought out.
Right.
He was like, yeah, young fella, he think he got me. And I didn't know who you were at the time.
Right.
Didn't know who you were because I'm growing up young. I knew the Reds, the Alice Gordons.
Because I was still on the other side of town as well from you.
So it was like, yeah, no, I don't know who this guy is.
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, he some guy they just picked up. I'm gonna play him. No respect for nobody. I got it. And I was like, yeah. Left the gym like, yeah, these dudes serious. These are some serious hoopers out here. And I think you were probably years overseas already at that time. As my 9th grade year, you already years overseas already. So that was, like I said, that was my moment to welcome to basketball. Like, this ain't what you think this is type of game.
Yeah.
But as far as like your passion goes, we always get hit with adversity as young athletes. To some, it may not seem as, but what was an adversity that you overcame, and how did you do it?
Well, the biggest adversity I had to come over, to be completely honest, coming from a small city and then going into meeting, my college teammates that were from everywhere, from New York, Chicago, Texas, Tennessee, a little bit of everywhere. So learn those different personalities helped me grow.
Yeah.
But also those transitional life skills, meaning that all the people that you meet will be different in how you handle them, because we never know how they're going to respond.
That is true.
And the high school coaches we all played for. So my biggest adversity was going to, my first adversity not being able to make the grades to go to Division I. That was the first hit for me. And then still at the time, the Panhandle was #1 conference JUCO in the country.
Yeah.
So we had a guy that go number 10 in the draft. So I'll let you know how good that conference was.
Okay.
But me, my freshman year, not coming off the bench. That was my first time in my career I ever came off the bench. But the guy that was in front of me was better than me. He was 6'7", could shoot.
Okay.
He was a first team all the year before.
Okay.
So that was my biggest adversity, just trying to adjust from not being a man.
Okay. So, and you played junior college at PJC.
Yep.
Or Pensacola State now, which is Pensacola State now.
Yeah.
But and I happened to read up on. I was like, wow, I thought you went straight to Montana.
Yeah.
From high school.
No. Yep. I went junior college first, and then when I left Pensacola State, I had to sit. I sat out a year to get my grades because I was getting recruited for Division II, but I wanted to go to Division I.
Right.
Ontario actually did the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
So when I sat out that year and I just became a student, that was a wake up call for me. And, letting me know that not to take the game of basketball for granted. It could be taken away from you.
No, absolutely. So I have a similar moment of high school basketball because I was kicked off varsity my 9th grade year. Because I didn't have the grades. I just thought it was something to do.
Right.
Basketball was just going to take care of everything.
Absolutely.
And that was the mindset that I had. And a lot of kids now have that mindset, like, okay, I'm going to go to school. You hear the stories of, my teachers help athletes out. And that's never really the case when you really have to go in life and you have to really do this stuff on your own. So it makes it harder for those young athletes to get out of that mindset of, they're just going to take care of it. It'll be fine. I cannot go to class or skip through things and I'm able to just kind of get through it that way.
Right.
But to the point of, going to college, the transition, like you said, you already kind of talked about the transition from high school to college, meeting different players, but being D1 is Division I basketball is a different mentality.
Absolutely.
To go into. I try to tell my kids now that I train and I coach that this what you do now is nowhere near the stuff you're going to do when you go to college and Division I at that. Absolutely. Like they hold you at a higher standard.
Absolutely.
When you do things like that. Your NAIAs, no shot to those schools,
right.
But Division I, they put a lot of money and time and your scholarship, and they expect you to uphold that scholarship.
Absolutely.
Which means grades and performance. So what is something that you can kind of go off of as far as, telling your athletes that transition to look out for?
Well, I would say at first, like you said, the expectation is something that you really can't prepare yourself for completely, for as the crowd, depending on what college you decide to go to. And like you said, how difficult the conference is and academically, we cannot leave that out. But now in the college level, everybody was the man on their particular team and they received a scholarship. And now with NIL, that's a whole different type of competition because money is involved, right? So like you spoke about earlier, you have to be able to perform. And now it's year to year. When we had scholarship, it was 4 years unless you were ineligible or you did something to get kicked off, right? But now it's literally you're playing for year to year. Yeah. So the biggest transition too was coming in as a junior. So I only had 2 years to be able to adjust to D1. That's another adjustment. Yeah. And then they're recruiting every year. Right. So we actually played. The funny story, the truth is, I went to go play for Pat Kennedy, who was actually at first at DePaul. Okay. And he left. So I really signed with him, and then he left to go to University of Montana.
Oh, right? Okay.
So then when I went to University of Montana, we had the top 30 difficult schedule in the country. We played Stanford, that was number 5. We played Michigan State, that was number 9. We played Villanova. We played, who else we played? That was ranked. Southern Illinois was ranked that year. I think we played, Michigan State. We played 7 ranked teams our first 10 games. Wow. So that was very difficult. That's coming tough. Out the gate, right? And for me to be able to adjust from going from sitting out a year to being thrown in the fire. Right. You know what I mean? So imagine that. Right. Yeah. And they're depending on me, they have a high expectation for me. Right, exactly. So those things is like you said, and then being on ESPN the first time. Man, my first ESPN game was against Michigan State. They were ranked number 11. So just coming from that, a small kid, coming from a small town and being able to adjust. So that was a wake-up call, definitely, but it's also the things that I dreamed about,
So I can, like I said, just in general, like my dream was to play Division I basketball.
Absolutely.
And now as an adult now, I should have dreamed a little further than just playing Division I basketball. But once I got there, and my first game, and Greg Monroe.
Absolutely.
Greg Monroe is from Louisiana.
Okay.
And I went to Tulane. So our first game was against Georgetown.
Wow.
Man, gym was packed. And it's my first time seeing Patrick Ewing at that point. And I'm like, man, this is a great game.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up losing. Of course, we ended up losing. I think we had the worst season of Tulane history. We were like 8-28 that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a tough season. But just to, like you said, it was an ESPN game. You see the lights, the cameras, and it's an eye opener. Like, I'm a freshman, and I played as a freshman at Tulane. So
man, kudos to you. Yeah.
I'm stuck in like what's going on?
Right.
The previous year, my senior year of high school, I played Greg Monroe at Helen Cox, which is his high school.
Okay.
So I already kind of knew what I was getting myself into.
Right.
But to see the other players, like you said, I think college is just an all-star team of guys from different areas. That's all it is. It's a bunch of all-stars from different teams to come and play together.
Yeah. Yes.
So to see that, and then like you said, the lights and the cameras really, really shocked me, and I was nervous. So I think I had like 2 points that game, but I was like, man, this is so hard. Mm-hmm. And then the season got better because I was able to get used to it. But just to that point, it's just like, wow, like to be, like you said, thrown in to something, to come from a small city and to see stuff like that was a real big eye opener. It was something for me to be like, wow, I think I want to do this all the time now. Like, I think I really want to do this all the time. So, the transition from, you know, college, being a student athlete, to now playing overseas, where in that do you think, because at times I think that I played harder in college than I did overseas because I had to maintain grades, scholarship. I had to really put myself out there. So the transition from college to pros, where was your mindset at that point?
Well, first I knew, you know, the road, you know, I had what they call, had to go through the back door. But, you know, because, of course, at the time, trying to go through the G League, played minor league, ABA at the time. And then I ended up getting my first contract in Finland. That was my first contract overseas.
Right.
So I will say this, the group before I got to Finland, how I ended up earning a spot, 2 Georgia kids was there and they both got cut, but they were homesick. I will say one advantage that me going from Pensacola, Florida to Missoula, Montana was I was used to being away from home and the snow.
Right.
Finland is a very, very cold, you know, place. So I was kind of already set for that. Now, professionally, of course, now you're not on a scholarship. You can be cut at any time.
Right.
So you have to perform at a high level. And I mean, my first game off the plane, they had me play. I had just came off an 8-hour flight, and as soon as I came off the plane, I had to strap up and be ready to go.
You had to play that same day?
I had to play that same day. And I had a great, I think I had 28 points the first game. But
off the plane?
Off the plane. 28 off the plane. We lost by 2, and they had one other American, and they ended up, you know, that was basically my trial right after the physical. And then I stayed the remainder of the season when I won the championship my first year. But it let me know how fast you can be cut, you know, and they could make a switch. So I just feel adversity, you know, I received some adversity from college from being injured and not being able to get to, you know, my ultimate goal was the NBA. Right. So, but injuries and many other things, I wasn't able to accomplish that. But as we get older, you realize not even going to Division I to play basketball, college period, when you look at the numbers, we were really good basketball players at the end of the day. We were lucky to have our education paid for. But as far as transitioning to pro, just that eye-opener knowing that this could be gone just after a few bad games. So that was my biggest wake-up call.
So I've never had thank God, I never joined a team overseas where I was like on the chopping block. But I definitely had a moment to where foreign guy walked in the gym. There's a black guy. And I'm like, okay, he must be American. But I played in Australia. Oh, okay. So they have people from Sudan that were refugees that came to Australia.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, I'm finna get cut. Like, I'm out of here. And he just kind of came in. He didn't say nothing to nobody. He just came in. We practiced. He worked hard. Like, he really worked hard. And I remember stories of people telling me, like, when you see foreign people walk, like people you don't know walk in the gym,
yes.
just know that's your replacement.
That's very true.
So I'm asking for the ball every time. Hey, give me the ball. Let me go ahead and let them know, like, this ain't what you think this is.
Right.
And I'm trying so hard. I'm working so hard. I ended up rolling my ankle that practice, playing so hard. And they're like, what are you doing? He's on the team. Like, he's a new addition to the team. Right. Like, you're playing way too hard. I'm like, oh, man, y'all scared me for a second. I'm thinking y'all about to ship me home. Right. He was like, man, nah, you're fine.
Right.
But just to hear the stories of people's like, man, when you see people walk in the gym that you don't know, that your job is gone.
That's true.
So probably didn't tell the guy that you replaced, like, hey, I got 28. Like, hey, man, just go ahead and pack your bags.
And that was it. I mean, and, you know, some of these guys have families and, you know, like even myself, I had my daughter. So, you know, you're taking that type of risk and you're getting older. So if you don't accomplish that, now you're coming back at 27, 28 years old with no work experience. So you have to look at both scenarios. It's kind of one of those things that you really got to put all your eggs in one basket and really go for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And be able to be honest with yourself.
Right.
If that trajectory is not what you expect it to be, especially if you have responsibility.
Man. So speaking of your being a father, I was also a father playing overseas. So I understand the separation. So how did you deal with the separation of being a father and playing overseas?
It was extremely challenging. You know, at the time my daughter was only 4, so me going back and forth, it got to the point where she expected me to leave. So she was pretty emotional about that, and as well as I was. But I had to tell myself that, you know, I'm playing for her at this point, because at that moment, that was the best scenario for me to be able to provide for her. You know, but being away, because my contract was between 8 and 10 months out of the year. So when I come back, I'm only seeing her for the summers.
Right.
And you know, I remember vividly this one, you know, my daughter used to always walk with her hand against the wall because she couldn't walk. She was very young. And then when I come back from overseas, or I walk her to the bathroom. When I came back from overseas, she was walking fine and looking at me like, I'm going to the bathroom by myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying how fast certain things that I had to transition my mind to, like, wow, she's going so fast. And even with, you know, at the time, what was it? With Zoom, seeing her face wasn't still enough of being there in person. So it's mentally is very, you know, that's adversity, that another thing that you can't prepare for, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It was a difficult transition, but I know also if I got too emotional about it, it'll affect my play.
Right. So did you have somebody to kind of guide you through that process, or it was just kind of as you went?
Man, I actually didn't. I wish I would have. I wish I would have had a mentor at that time, and somebody that can relate. But, you know, us coming from a smaller city, you know, and at the end of the day, I was still young with a child. I had my child in college, so it wasn't a lot of guys. So it wasn't a lot of guys that I could be able to talk to that could relate. So, but it was very difficult. It was a difficult moment. But now I love that I'm able to give that same advice to. I got a few guys that have children. Now the advice I can give from my experience, I can be a mentor to them. Yeah,
that's good. So the transition for me was hard because I didn't, like you said, I didn't have a mentor to tell me how to transition from, you know, being home all the time and then now leaving.
Absolutely.
I think I had my first daughter in my sophomore year at UWF.
Wow.
And as a 22-year-old young man, I had to go to school, go to class, come back, you know, make sure she was cool. And I had a job at that time. So I worked at Publix as well.
Man.
And I would go from games to work home, wake up, go to class, go back to work. Like it was a transition for me. I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
All I knew was take care of responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's what my people told me, take care of responsibility. I'm like, man. And then to move on, I had my second daughter. I had my first job to go to Australia. Well, I actually ended up playing, I don't know if you know this wild ball thing they play in China.
Okay.
It's really like just tours running around. But I did that the first time, and I think I stayed there for like 3 or 4 months, just trying to find teams, you know, try out for while I was there. And like you said, it was just, they grow up so fast. It was like I was home, you were arm baby, and you were just crawling.
Yes.
Now you're up, like you said, grabbing on stuff, walking. I'm like, man, what am I missing?
What are you missing?
I'm missing so much. And then I'm an emotional man. I hate to say that. I went into it like, man, I miss my daughter.
Right.
So I think I did it for like 2 or 3 years, like just back and forth. Like you said, back and forth, and injuries kind of set in as well. Injuries set in, so I was like, yeah, missing time, battling injuries. I'm gonna hang it up at this moment. But when you're able to move. When you're able to move around as much as you've moved around over 9 years of playing basketball, the travel and the seeing different things, like how did that shape culture wise? How did that shape you culture wise, seeing different stuff in different countries?
It helped me evolve to an entire different level and look at the world from a different perspective, especially coming from a small city. With the visibility and being able to have an opportunity to experience different cultures from Asia to Europe to went to Canada as well. I've been to I think I've been to 18 different countries. So yeah, and to experience that, it helped me. One of my biggest lessons I would say I learned the most from was when I went to Iran. That was my biggest adjustment because it was a biblical country. So therefore, rules were completely different.
Right.
Even though they don't demand that the Americans have to abide by their rules for us, how you dress or whatnot, but it is still disrespectful. So I remember my agent telling me, try your best to, not to wear shorts and stuff when you go out and different things of that nature. And when I did, I seen the way they reacted to me, right? But I would say the biggest eye opener for me was when I went to Iran is everybody on my team was married, right? And they could not fathom it. You have a child, but you're not married because biblically how they look at things. So that was an eye opener too, But I learned a lot, and it taught me about judgment as well. Because during that time, they were still trying to, it was kind of at war, I would say, with what Saddam was saying, and they hadn't captured him yet. So my agent was a little hesitant about me going over there, and I didn't know what to expect from the people. But once I got there, the Muslim people were extremely nice. It was, just looking at the news, you already put in your own, it's perspective of how you think it's going to be.
Absolutely.
But once I actually arrived there, they were the nicest people, man. They were genuine and, loving. So that was one of my favorite places, going to Tehran. So.
Okay. So life after basketball is normally a really hard transition for certain people. We normally try to go into, this is just my route, I went straight into trying to coach basketball or do something that kept me around the game.
Right.
So your transition from, pro basketball to, life after pro basketball, what happened to where you were like, okay, cool, 360 is what I'm going to do?
Well, first I would say, and you're right about the transition. When I finished playing my last year, I also was hit with injury. So it was, my career came to an end sooner than what I expected, right? I thought I had at least 4 or 5 more years, And when that happened, I had to make a decision. But I set out a year, tried to rehab my body. I had a groin injury that for some reason wouldn't heal, so I tried to rehab my body, and it kept getting injured. So I had to make a decision. So during that time, I spent a lot of money too, because no money's coming in, and I'm still paying to get rehab, and I'm in the States. And then hopefully my agent can find me a job. I actually received 2 offers, but I knew I wasn't ready. If I would have went over there, I wouldn't have had another chance. So I actually ended up going through a depression, and I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't want nobody to see me out, because the worst thing is people come up to you, I thought you was going overseas out there, and that issue that you have to keep explaining the same story over and over. So it started to mess with me mentally. Before mental health was a thing, I was just isolated at the house. I didn't really want the lights on, dark places I was comfortable with. And finally, man, I then end up going to Iran for half of the season. I finished it. I had the game-winning 3 for them to move up. And that moment, I was good with whatever happened at that point.
Gotcha.
And I ended up, retiring at that point. But the transition, It kind of happened organically because when I moved here to Atlanta, and I was going to LA Fitness trying to figure out. I'll be completely honest. I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. But I knew I did want to. I said maybe I can coach. So I started. I had an offer actually at Pensacola. I had 3 college offers to be college to become a college coach, but they offered me during that last year, and I didn't know if I wanted to go back and play again.
Right. Okay.
So those offers was off the table. The college offers was off the table to be a coach, assistant coach.
Right.
And then so when I came to Atlanta, I looked up the schools, which the high schools that was in my area for coaching. And the year I came to Atlanta was the year that huge scandal came with the SAT scores of the high schools, and it was those teachers went to jail. That was the year I got here, so I was like, nah, I don't want to be kind of involved in that, right? I just didn't know,
right.
So I waited a year. I actually I worked at Sprint, man, for a short time. One of my friends at the time was a district manager, so he said, man, you could come in, just test it out. I know this is your first corporate job or whatnot. And I did. I ended up meeting some great people. I did it for like a year and a half. And then I left out of there. And somebody's phone that I actually helped end up being a principal. So I went into his school. He gave me an opportunity, and I became an assistant coach. So I did assistant coach for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, for Chamblee High School.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Did not know that. Wow, did not know you coach.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, the transition from, pros to now life at this point, because as a pro athlete, we get the good side of it sometimes. Absolutely. Like we kind of show people the good side. And then to touch on the part where you're saying, like, when you leave teams, being in the small city that we're from,
right?
The chatter of, I thought you were playing here. Absolutely. And what happened,
right?
And that's, like I said, when I played overseas, I lived in Indiana at that time.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have to worry about that. Nobody knew me. I was able to be secluded. But once I got back home and once I moved back to Pensacola, it was like, well, where are you playing now? I'm not playing nowhere.
Right.
Or I'm in between jobs right now. Oh man, what happened? I'm sorry. It happened. Injuries, it just happens.
Right.
Things happen. So yes, that does put you in a dark place, because now I feel like a failure.
Absolutely.
I feel like I didn't accomplish what I set out to do.
Right.
So just in general, I already knew that, my parents, my mom's a pastor, my dad's a minister. So I had people, praying for me and all that, but it took a minute for me to even think of praying for myself. Because I was I was in a dark place so bad. I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna continue without basketball.
Absolutely.
Basically. Like, basketball was my savior, so I didn't know how to move past basketball. And like I said, by the grace of God, I thank God for having those people that were on my behalf, supporting me, praying for me, just trying to help me out. And I ended up actually working at a great company. I did it for like 2-3 years. And got into coaching with Pine Forest High School. Shout out Ty McCants, Coach Ty. What's going on?
Okay. What's up, Coach Ty?
So we were playing pickup in the gym, and he was like, "Hey man, I need a coach." I'm like, I ain't really with the kid thing, man. I don't want to do all that. He was like, "But you training?" I was like, "Yeah, but that's hour and a half, 2 hours of my time, and we out of the door."
Right.
But he was like, "Man, you'll be a great asset for it." So to keep me around the game, like I said, I appreciate Ty for even thinking of me for doing it. But to stay around the game is what really changed my perspective on, what I can do after my pro career.
Absolutely.
Which, like I said, I dug more into, the basketball training of things. So, to get to him being a owner of his own company, an entrepreneur, coming up in a city where it's really busy and there's a lot of things going on.
Absolutely.
In Atlanta, you chose to start your own basketball training business. Out of everything that goes on in Atlanta, and there's always something going on here, always something.
Absolutely.
What in your mind made you think of, because there's plenty of basketball trainers in Atlanta. plenty of them. It's a lot of them.
Yes,
yeah, it's a lot of them. Yes. So what made you think that you were going, how did you set yourself apart? What made you think that 360 was going to be what you were going to do here?
And that's a great question. I think most importantly, I organically from the coaching and being able to play 9 years overseas, play Division I basketball and train with different guys myself, right? Running camps even when I was younger. I think all that, being able to be in one can help a player to be able to elevate and move to the next level. But I also think just going to being a coach, seeing what's needed. The development was a huge missing component for these kids to make it. And a lot of these kids wanted to be able to play in college basketball. So I'll say one thing that really led me to training naturally. The coaching, the political of the coaching side, I didn't like, right? Because of certain relationships and things that you wouldn't allow to say or have with players. But the first year the school I was at had 5 seniors. 3 of them really wanted to play basketball. None of them had a scholarship offer, right? Out of the 4 of them, I said, I tell you what, you guys wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, you meet with me, and I guarantee I'll at least give you an opportunity for workouts for you to try out to get a scholarship. And, you know, I end up, out of the 3 guys, all 3 got scholarships. 2 got a junior college scholarship, which went on to go to HBCUs, both of them, and the other one went to Division II off the workout and the relationships that I built over time. You know, the thing about basketball, which we know it's a small community.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Everything's built off relationships, but I knew I could prepare them, and I also know if they could wake up 5 a.m., work out with me, go to school, then later on still go to practice and be committed to that, then you'll have an opportunity to play on the next level. So that's what organically, when I was able to accomplish that was my last year. I said, you know what, I can do this, because you know, college coaches we was in correspondence with what they needed and what they were looking for, and then I ended up going to Final Four that year. And I said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do the skill development, but also provide an opportunity to prepare them to go to the next level, whatever their goal is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to touch on the success point of, you guiding and helping people, find their success. How do you define success for yourself?
Well, I think it's, definitely success can be objective to so many different things. But for me, for a kid to be able to prepare themselves and have an opportunity to play basketball after high school, to me is success, and mentally. So I have some guys too that I had some situations that happened that I didn't really, that was my first time I had kids that were very academically strong, right? But they wasn't athletically recruited the same way. Like I had kids that could have went to Georgia Tech, Stanford, and Cal, but they might be academically.
Yeah, those are big schools,
right? Big
schools, yeah.
But some of them, well, those 3 kids that I experienced with the parents, I know he wants to really play basketball, but academically, this is who was offering him, and the athletic scholarship was only D2 or JUCO. So I understand, and that was something. So I learned, it taught me to meet people where they are and have a plan of action. And that was in my beginning years.
Right.
So I just feel like success to me is making sure that the kid at least has the opportunity to meet whatever goal that is. That's what I was referencing to.
That's good. Yeah. That is good. That's good. So what is 360 basketball?
360 basketball is just a safe space for an athlete to come in that wants to get better and reach whatever goal that might be. I'm lucky to have a team full of guys to be able to help. I have older guys that come in that have already played college at all levels. I have pro guys come in, and sometimes I let my younger guys have the opportunity to watch them work out because, of course, they watch highlights.
Right.
And they see the end result, but they don't know the process in which it took for them to get to that point.
That is true.
So I learned very quickly when they see how serious they take their work, it helped the young guys to be able to, step their game up. Just like you said, that moment what you had with me, which I didn't know with basketball.
Absolutely, right.
It let you know, like, okay, this is the level I need to be on if I want to be able to play at this level. Right. And I feel 360 does that, and on and off the court. I mean, we have some guys go academically, just play their years of high school and then end up going to. I had one case where a kid came in, trained with me for 2 years. He ended up walking on for a very big school that he got a scholarship academically, but he ended up making the team as well.
Okay.
And that, so he was able to accomplish both goals, right?
That's good.
So, yeah, I just feel like 360 is just a full circle to be able to help you to get to your goals, and we have a good team in place to do that.
That's good. Full circle. 360 is 360 is a circle. So right. Yeah, that's perfect wording. Wordplay on the business. But so what is next for you and 360 basketball?
I think what's next, and what I'm really excited about is, I'm going to Final Four this year to be in San Antonio. But the biggest thing for me going forward now is being able to get more kids opportunity and scholarships, but also when they're done playing basketball, they can have a place to come back. And, gotcha. Just like me and you said, in our transition, it was difficult for us once we put down the basketball to what we're going to do in life. So I would like to have something that could help them transition, or even come back and be able to help or find a place here to work and be able to find where they need to get. And I think organically they can find it as well. So that's really what I hope for.
Okay. So I remember you touching on, let me go back, but I remember you touching on, sometimes having the younger generation watching the older guys
absolutely
train and like see what they've been through to, get to where they were. So what of the young kids, like what's the youngest that you go as far as, training children? Like what is the youngest age that you do?
Well, I go from 9 and 10, depending on skill level, all the way up to pros.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I have them in different youth groups, depending on the skill of the player. I don't go by the age. Now, I'm not going to have a 12-year-old playing with a 17-year-old.
Right.
But for the training aspect, I don't want to penalize them for being skilled.
Right. Absolutely.
So I want them to be able to move up, and that's been a huge advantage for me and the players being able to play well when they go in and play for their school. So yeah, I go from 10U all the way up to pros.
That's good. So words, anything as far as words of encouragement to people in general, not just your athletes, but you have your entrepreneurs here, you have, your former athletes or your current athletes who are still trying to, go after that dream and that goal of still playing. What are some words of encouragement you can give to them?
Well, the first thing I would say, struggle upward. I feel like a lot of us in the society we were in was
I'm sorry, media. Say that one more time. You said what?
Struggle upward.
Struggle upward.
Yeah. Meaning
I never heard that.
Meaning that as you're on your journey towards your goal, you're going to meet adversity, right? The worst thing you could do is just sit back and not continue to move forward.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the struggle for me is just redirection. It's not failure. Me and you both thought at that point when we didn't make it to our goal, we failed. No, that wasn't the period. It was just a redirection on the path in which we supposed to be on. Now we're walking in our purpose. All it was part of our purpose. God knew this.
Absolutely.
We would have this and be able to give back to the next generation. So that would be my first one. The second would be relationship capital.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Entrepreneurship, business, corporate, friendship, and make sure they're not transactional. I've been able to walk in so many doors just off the people who I've established relationships with. I say this, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships, right? If I wouldn't have had a relationship, I know you, I wouldn't have got this interview.
Right,
You know what I mean? If me and you didn't have, if we never met each other, you wouldn't have been able to work my professional account. Right. So everything is built off relationships, and I think people underestimate that and treat everybody with respect because you never know who that person is.
I agree.
So that's my two biggest things.
Okay. So to that point of your relationship capital, I actually had an opportunity to interview for a coaching job in the TBL because of you.
I appreciate it.
It was the pro camp he just spoke about, and Carnell Wiley, shout out to Mr. Wiley, commissioner of the TBL.
Absolutely.
Great guy, great energy. And it was, I don't know what it was, but he just like, I see something in you that I gotta have you. I just want you to do it. And at the time, I wanted to coach basketball,
right?
Because I was coaching the ABA team at the house, which is the Pensacola Lightning,
right?
And just having a relationship through you with Wiley just took me to a level to where I was amazed that just knowing somebody and them knowing somebody could connect you with them. So, and people feed off of energy. I'm a real big energy person. People really feed off of energy, and it was something about you that he trusted you to trust me to be able to, give me the opportunity to interview for the coaching job.
Absolutely.
So it was a big deal. And I do want to appreciate you for that. And I tell you, I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to come and work the camp, but as well having an opportunity out of it.
Absolutely.
And I say I appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
One thing I wanted to touch on something that do I have a
absolutely free.
About relationship capital. So I had spoke at this AAU banquet probably about 5 years ago. I didn't know who was in the what, I just thought it was just parents there for the most part. And I spoke at this banquet probably about 20 minutes. They asked me to speak about entrepreneurship and just the attitude to be able to play college basketball, period. So after that, I spoke at this banquet. I'm leaving, and this guy asked me some questions afterwards. I didn't know who it was. And make a long story short, he was like, "Hey, do you have some time this week? We should probably do lunch." So one of the other parents let me know who he was. But when I met him for lunch, no, I take that back. He told me to come to the gym. I'm sorry, meet him at 5:30 a.m. That's right. So I had to meet him at 5:30 a.m. at the gym. We got a workout in.
Okay.
And after that, we went to breakfast. We went to breakfast, spoke briefly. He just like, "Hey man, tell me about 360."
Right.
And I was able to let him know what I was what my goals were for 360. And as we're speaking, the bill comes. It wasn't no more than $40.
Right.
So she asked how many checks. I said one.
Right.
Now this guy is extremely wealthy. So I paid for it. And after I paid for it, he was like, "Man, I would have ordered a lot more if I knew you was paying for it." He made a joke. Mind you, this guy's extremely wealthy.
Right.
So I after I paid for the meal, he lets me know like, "Hey, I love what you're doing, man. I appreciate breakfast. I'm gonna connect you with one of my good friends." He didn't say who it was, but mind you, I told him exactly what I was trying to do with 360. Once we leave, it wasn't even 10 minutes. He put me in a group message with this person. This person was really in one of the top shoe companies. At the time was the head person of this particular shoe company, huge shoe company. I did not realize until I Googled it. And the person took my call, gave me some advice, asked me 2 to 3 questions. I didn't have the answer for 2 of the questions, only one. They called it at the exact time they said they was going to call. And I just wasn't in position to be able to accept what that opportunity was. So I saved $40, speaking at a banquet, going to breakfast in the gym that morning with a guy off a conversation, put me in place for an opportunity that would have been huge.
That's major.
So I also say, yes, relationship capital, but you also need to be in position. Because sometimes you won't be able to accept all blessings. I knew I wasn't in position at that point, but it was a lesson learned.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we come across a lot of things like that in our lives, where opportunity comes, we're just not prepared for it at the moment. And it really changes your mindset on what you're doing. It ramps it up for you a little bit. Because you're like, oh man, like this is what's out here for us.
Absolutely.
And I've been in situations like that as well. It's just understanding that you have to be prepared, but you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So that's big though.
Yeah.
That is really big. And like I said, when you have that opportunity, like I said, it gives you, it kind of makes you feel good about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, man, $40 in a conversation, and I find myself in doors like this.
Yes.
Like I said, God, I pray they open up more for you.
Absolutely.
in that way. Yes. But we at the end. We're at the end now, and I do appreciate you for taking time out your busy schedule to come through, had this interview with me, man. I really appreciate it, y'all.
Problem.
Y'all, if you want to check it out, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be under Coach Beasley on YouTube, Pivot to Greatness podcast, man. I enjoy Steve Horne for coming in and giving you guys knowledge and telling you his backstory of everything that he's done. And we'll be back with another episode. You guys be easy. Pivot to Greatness, we out.